Welcome to the Gruber morning show. We had a little glitch here this morning, apparently, so I wasn't sure if we were live or not. I'm Pete Gruber, and we do these weekly.
I'm Mark Schaffner. Good morning. Welcome, everybody. This is good enough that it almost looks like not an AI picture in the back.
Almost, yes. Yeah. And it's spelling things correctly. The theme, of course, for this podcast is going to be our new EV Preserve, the world's first electric car storage facility dedicated. And I asked AI to render some pictures. We'll have much better pictures here soon as we continue to build out the facility. We'll talk about that in a moment here, though. But we've got a news item here that I found fascinating. There's a lot of turmoil, of course, in the EV world right now. New administration coming in. The Chinese are taking over Europe with EVs. Will the automakers survive? You know, a lot of fear, trepidation, and question marks. But anyway, here's an interesting article. Chinese automakers eye Volkswagen factories to gain foothold in German market. The way this one reads is, apparently Volkswagen is planning on idling 2 German factories.
Yes, I have heard that. One in Dresden, and I don't remember where the other one was at.
And if it's anything like the Fremont purchase by Tesla, somebody's going to pick up a massive facility at bargain basement rates because nobody wants anything that big and industrial.
Right. Didn't Tesla pick up the entire Fremont facility for like $30 million or something like that?
It was somewhere in that neighborhood, yeah, which was just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Massive facility. So here's how it continues. Chinese EV makers are eyeing these sites as potential acquisition targets. This move could represent a significant power play for China's booming electric car market, potentially shifting the balance of power in the European automotive industry. Boy, isn't that the case?
That really would be. You know, VW has obviously struggled a lot with their electric vehicle lineup. They are one of the losers recently, one of the car makers that's actually losing share and in real terms losing the number of EVs that they sell each year. At the same time, they're partnered with a couple of different Chinese car makers, and it's very possible that they're going to talk to these Chinese car makers about, hey, here you go. Do you want it?
What I find humorous is China has enjoyed a regulation-free, economic landscape, basically. Germany is on the other end of that scale, as we found out when Tesla tried to build in Grünheide outside Berlin,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
All kinds of environmental issues and restrictions. And so I think the Chinese are going to have an interesting time trying to do tenant improvement on these factories to make them suitable for their production. And then you have a second ingredient. The Chinese work ethic, I think, is going to be different than the German work ethic. A lot of
Germany
expectations.
part of the European culture of 6-week holidays and 12 or 13 weeks off a year for people and stuff like that?
Oh, you nailed it. We have a union mentality on steroids in Germany. So I don't know how the Chinese are going to deal with those types of challenges.
It's going to be an interesting challenge. You know, there was old proverbs for the Chinese focus on work and the efficacy of work and the inherent goodness of work itself. The Chinese farmer, whoever wanted to get ahead, rice farmer, who would want to get ahead, would work as many as 360 out of 365 days a year, because by doing that, they could get 3 rice harvests. The first 2 harvests usually went to whoever was ruling the community. They went to the rulers. That was their taxes. They would keep enough of the second harvest for their own sustenance. And that third harvest a year was the one that actually helped them to get ahead. So the virtues of work and hard work were always part of the Chinese culture.
So we're going to see a culture clash. I guess that's what we're saying.
Absolutely, we will.
Got some people chiming in here. YouTube, 91Kit says hi. Thanks for joining us. Michael Aldea joined us. How are you? He says hello from YouTube.
Hi, Michael. Good to have you on. Thank you guys for joining us.
It'll be February 17th, actually, that we're going to have our Tesla Roadster podcast. And this one is going to be a tribute to three key Roadster engineers that perished in a plane crash. February 17th will be the 15-year anniversary. And think about that for
I
a
think
moment.
it's 15.
Is it
I think it's
15?
15.
Okay. But I have reached out to a number of the key people in Tesla at the time to get their versions of what happened and how it all went down and how impactful this was. For those of you interested in the 2.0 Roadsters, there is actually a special screen that commemorates these three people, and it's an in memoriam type screen. And a lot of people that own Roadsters don't understand what that means. So we're going to go into that in that podcast, February 17th.
That'd be an interesting story.
All right. In the last podcast, we covered the speculation that if you took just 1.2% of the Sahara Desert and covered it in solar panels, you would make enough electricity to power the entire world. And we were speculating during that podcast, how could this work? How is it possible? Well, there's more to the article apparently, and I'm going to share some things with you that there's some problems that come to mind with this strategy.
Yeah.
One of them is, yes, 1.2% of the desert would generate energy. The entire world could be serviced. And because this desert receives abundant sunlight, but there are extreme climate issues that pose challenges for solar panel efficiency. Some of those are the harsh temperature fluctuation and accumulation of sand and dust can degrade the panels.
Sure.
We have a golf cart that runs between all our commercial buildings. And we converted that to solar, by the way, because the canopy got old in age. It's a 1974 version golf cart. And it had a Surrey with a fringe on top, as cloth or, whatever. And it got raggedy, so we needed a roof for it. We ended up putting a solar panel up there.
I remember that. It looks like an old style hot rod now.
Right. But we found fairly quickly that you need to keep that solar panel clean in order for it to be as efficient in charging the golf cart. So in this desert environment, I can only imagine that dust would definitely cause a problem. The other thing they talk about is the darker surface of the solar panels would absorb more heat than the natural desert sand, potentially altering local climate conditions. Now, what we're talking about here is this could lead to increased cloud formation, rainfall in the desert. Not a bad thing, right?
Not a bad thing necessarily.
And vegetation growth, which would disrupt the desert's delicate ecosystem. Now, beyond environmental concerns, they say, logistical and economic hurdles make the project especially difficult. Just transporting and installing the required, now get this, 51.4 billion solar panels would demand immense financial and labor investment. Moreover, the infrastructure needed to transmit this generated electricity worldwide would result in significant power losses.
Think of what it would take to maintain 51.4 billion solar panels. It reminds me of the Golden Gate Bridge a little bit. Painters start painting the Golden Gate Bridge at one end. By the time the painters are done at the other end of the Golden Gate Bridge, the first end is in need of a fresh coat.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's how that would be with these panels. Before you could get anywhere close to being fully installed, first the panels would need maintenance, service, or replacement.
Mm-hmm. They say that a more practical approach would be to develop decentralized solar farms within individual countries. Now your power transmission problems begin to reduce enormously, which would reduce, of course, the cost of the electricity that is generated.
Mm-hmm.
But the article does go on to add, it is a fun thought experiment, and it reminds us that our sources of energy really are pretty inefficient, and that it is possible to do a better job with it.
It definitely is. And think about scattering 51.4 billion solar panels. While that seems like such a huge, incredible high number, but when you're scattering them across the earth, You've got whether it's the farm buildings in Germany that probably sit with 50 or 60 panels. A house like mine, I have 31 panels on my house.
It adds up quickly, doesn't
It
it?
adds up quickly.
Hmm.
You could get most of that 51 billion panels just on the houses in the United States.
Sure. And then you have the construction costs. These panels don't lay in the sand. You have
Right.
to have structure, and you have to have foundations, and you have to transport machinery. So anyway, it is a fun thought experiment, and it looks like we've got a bunch more people chiming in here.
Yes. First, we have Highlander. Good morning, Highlander. Glad to have you on. He says, "Hi, gang." He says, "Jesse, it's a green light. Everything's a go." So, Jesse will have to fill us in on what that means.
One of our Roadster customers joined us. YouTube, Fink's Automotive. He says, "Hi, everyone," from Dave Fink. Welcome.
They're the ones that have that really incredible tool that helps us to open the lids, right?
No, that's Fine Tools.
That's Fine Tools.
Yeah,
Okay.
Dave is VIN 209.
Fantastic.
Roadster. Mike Aldia, also ex-Tesla, by the way. He says, "I remember that. There's a memorial on top of the hill in the old headquarters picnic area. I'm not sure if it's still there. You know, Michael, I was unaware of that, but we'll definitely use that during the podcast." The short story is one of them was a pilot, David Bourne, and two younger engineers.
Mm-hmm.
They were leaving Palo Alto, I believe, and crashed in a residential neighborhood. Cause unknown still.
Wow.
But it really had the potential to cripple Tesla at the time because David especially was instrumental in design of the electronics for the power electronics module. And it was quite a loss from a technical standpoint,
Incredible.
along with the human loss as well. TikTok, Serhii Trush says, "Hello from Ukraine. Wow, welcome.
Welcome.
How are you going without glasses?" Yes. We made a command decision 3 weeks ago or so. Actually, Jesse did. We said, "Jesse, what would you like us to do?" And he said, "All right, let's get rid of the glasses." Wait, he's going to chime in now.
I like how the blame falls on me. I think it's a good call, though. You have beautiful eyes, Pete.
Well, thank you. And we've been, we've been doing this for over 3 years. And there, as promised, there will be a video that will describe the reasons for this. I think you'll find that entertaining. We're not ready to do that yet in this podcast.
Getting closer, though.
Yeah.
Also on TikTok, again, Serhii Trush, he says, "Yeah, solar panels will reflect the sunlight back up, and that can be a problem."
Yeah.
You know, Serhii, you might just have solved global warming.
Good point. Instagram, John C. Killick says, "Hi, it's John from England. Finishing work soon."
Good afternoon, John.
Thanks for joining. You know, it always amazes me how the internet and these podcasts have really a global exposure. We were talking about Ukraine. We've had South America, Africa. You know, it's Canada, of course. I mean, I could go on and on. All right, got another article here. This is from CleanTechnica.com. It says, "Lucid comes back from the brink with Tesla Supercharger Assist." I didn't know they were on the brink.
I didn't know they were on the brink either, but, you know, that's okay. We'll let them have that article title.
So it goes something like this. Lucid claims that the Gravity SUV became the first non-Tesla vehicle sold with an integrated NACS port. It was the first vehicles were delivered in December of last year, if you remember. But, however, the fans of the Hyundai Ioniq 5 may disagree. Do you know anything about that? Do they have an export too?
Yeah, they have an export, and I think they sent theirs out first.
Okay.
The Ioniq 5 is it's a decent electric car. It's not one that I would like myself. I just don't happen to like the look of it. But my understanding is Kia and Hyundai put out a pretty good product.
They talk about the placement of this NACS port as well, located on the rear driver's side of the vehicle. And if you're in social media, you've probably seen there's a new evolving point of view that the reason for the location of that particular place on the car for Tesla was that Elon was renting a house in Brentwood, and because of the placement of the garage, he needed that charge port to be in that location. Whereas other EV manufacturers have placed it in the front, on the other side, and various places,
Right.
which now makes it difficult to use NACS type chargers.
Yeah. There are cars that have the NACS charger that have a hard time using it because the cord that Tesla has provided with their superchargers is typically too short
Mhm.
to go onto a car that has a charger anywhere other than the rear driver's side corner of the car.
Right. So as the NACS standard evolves and becomes popular, it looks like these other manufacturers are going to have to relocate their charge port doors. Where's the Rivian, by the way?
Oh, and off the top of my head, I don't remember. I think it's toward the front though.
I think it is the front, yeah. So to charge one of those, you would actually have to pull in nose first into a supercharger location.
Yes, you might be able to, especially of course, the newer version 4 supercharger stalls do have a longer cord.
They do, okay.
And so where the version 2 and version 3 stalls only have a cord that may be as little as 6 feet, these oftentimes have 12-foot cords.
They say that the charge time on the Gravity, now we're talking about the Lucid Gravity, is a 12-minute fast charge that can deliver 200 miles of range.
And I think the capability would be even higher if they get onto a fourth generation charger.
Mm-hmm. They attribute this high-performance EV charging as a proprietary system. That means secret, and they're not going to share it.
Right.
And that deploys the rear motor drive unit, giving the charge voltage of 500 volts a boost to match the Lucid battery pack, which now remember is over 800 volts, capable of 926 volts.
How do you think they do that?
I knew you were going to ask me that, and I have no idea. Obviously, stepping up voltages is in the world of AC, alternating current, transformers.
Yes.
Stepping up DC is difficult. You have to convert back to AC, step up, and then back to DC. That's called a DC to DC converter,
Right.
which creates inefficiencies, a whole bunch of additional hardware. So how they do this is probably proprietary. And they won't want
It
us to know.
probably is. It probably is. But it's the idea of using the drive motor effectively as a transformer to step up voltage is so intriguing to me.
It is. And of course, you think about the voltages. Now, we're in the automotive business. We're used to working with 12 volts, and 12 volts won't hurt you. Unless you're standing in a bucket of salt water and your hands are wet with salt water and you're grabbing 12 volts, you probably feel a tingle, but I don't think it will kill you.
Right.
Now we're getting up into 48 volt, low voltage in cars.
Yes.
That won't kill you either. The telephone systems in the United States were 48 volts for, 100 years.
The one danger on those telephone systems is they would typically be 48 volts DC, and you would grab it and you wouldn't be able to let go because it was a constant current.
Right.
And that could be that could be really dangerous.
What Mark is talking about there is if you have DC voltage and it flows through your muscles, it will contract the muscles in a certain fashion, whereas alternating current goes plus minus 60 times a second. So it relaxes that muscle or changes.
Right.
And you can let go. But DC, once it's clamped on there, it's very difficult to let go.
Yeah. So that would be incredibly dangerous. But even then, you're right. Generally, 48 volts isn't enough to kill somebody.
But now we have close to 1,000 volts in cars. And safety is extraordinarily important now. Contactors that open up that don't expose, technicians, mechanics, engineers. We don't know what to call them anymore, by the way. It used to be mechanic was anyone that worked on a car. Nowadays, it's going to be a combination of skills, including mechanical, electrical, and software.
I was thinking about that, and to give people a little bit of perspective on what this means, there's in residential neighborhoods, every few houses, a lot of times, you will see a transformer sitting on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And this great big transformer, if you touch it or get into it, it's going to kill you. That big transformer oftentimes is a 16,000 volt transformer that's stepping down to 208 volts. And so it'll run 100 amps or so at 16,000 volts. It's not that much more powerful. That great big thing that's half the size of a car, that's not that much more power going through it than what you have going into one of these electric.
Yeah, good point. All right, so they continue with the article. They say this high-tech solution permits charging with the highest voltage the charging station is capable of outputting, and therefore it becomes more efficient. And it also reduces cable heat. Remember, the relationship between voltage and current is reciprocal. And the higher the voltage, the lower the current. And current is actually what is or creates the byproduct of heat.
Really interesting. So you've got this 500 volts being pumped in at 300 or 400 amps. And because it drops the amperage, the current,
Mhm.
to step it up to 900 volts, the battery can probably take a full speed charge for much longer than
Sure.
a lot of these other cars can.
Yeah, the distance of 500 volts to 1,000 volts or 969 or whatever, it halves the current.
Yeah.
So if it's 500 amps, 400 amps going in, it's 200 amps now.
Interesting.
So they do say that the Gravity SUV package also comes with a CCS1 to NACS and then a J1772 to NACS adapter. And Henry Sharp in the Roadster world was making the CAN Junior and CAN Senior adapters. He's not involved in this. This is more of a Chinese product now. But these adapters are also available with Gravity. The final thing on the Gravity is that it has bidirectional charging capability. So not only can you put voltage in, but you can extract voltage. That's called a vehicle to grid or vehicle to vehicle.
I wonder if they can wire up somebody's house to be able to take that, because it's 19.2 kilowatts
Mhm.
of voltage of electricity that can come out. That's enough to power somebody's house for a couple of hours.
Absolutely. The most interesting picture that I saw not too long ago was there was a car event, and one of the first Lucid Airs was at this event. It was a Roadster event, and one of the Roadsters had run out of juice and was going to have a difficult time getting back home.
Mm-hmm.
They actually plugged the Roadster into the Air, into the Lucid, and it was scavenging a charge from that Lucid.
That's that's so cool. I really appreciate that. On Instagram, Oakshade104 says, "Have you heard anything about the Tesla RV?"
No, nothing from Tesla. But remember, at Gruber Motor Company, one of our engineers built a Tesla tiny home on top of a Model S platform. And he's continuing to evolve and develop this product. The latest was a couple weekends ago, and it's kind of a family affair. It's the engineer that works with us. His dad was here and his brothers from Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Okay.
And what they were doing was changing out the kitchen furniture or the kitchen appliances. They have a new cook stove in there now. They have a new cook surface. So it's continuing to evolve into a tiny home.
That's so cool. In fact, Highlander was asking exactly that question. He said, "What's happening with your employee that's converting his Tesla to a big wooden buggy?"
With the wooden buggy, yeah. It's slow going, folks, because, well, he has a full-time job working on Teslas with us, and this is a weekend project. TikTok, Joni says, I think the Hyundai Ioniq 6 is nicer. Okay.
I do too. I've seen
Do you?
both, and I like the look of the Hyundai Ioniq.
Instagram, Shazad264 says, how do you check an EV car's voltage? Is there a safety protocol? Well, the way that we do it is when we drop the battery pack, we have a laptop that we actually connect into the CAN ports.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, we have control over the contactors. And then from there, yes, there's safety protocols, gloves, PPE type, equipment, especially when we open up the battery pack, and now we've got everything exposed. TikTok Joni says, dangerous for first responders, all new training. Yeah, very much so.
Yes.
And the pace at which the first responders are keeping up with the technology is slow and inefficient. We found that out with the first fire that we had.
Yeah.
No one knew how to fight a lithium ion, battery fire.
It was something else that day, seeing between the 40-plus fire trucks located right on site and the 80-plus fire trucks around the corner down the street.
Yeah.
They just didn't know what they didn't know. And then we had that second fire, and what was it? 2 fire trucks in a company, and they just kind of knew what to do.
Yeah. Yeah. The first one as well, there was an entire hazmat team, remember? Because they had no idea
Right.
what the environmental impact was. Was the smoke deadly as it was drifting into, residential neighborhoods?
Right.
It was a lot of confusion, but they're getting better. There are a lot of organizations that are working on creating awareness. And Highlander says, Jesse, you can let Pete know the secret. I'm arriving Monday and departing Saturday evening. Yes, kindness is always free. So Highlander is coming to join us then.
You just gave it away already, Highlander.
So there is no secret anymore. Is it this Monday, Jesse?
This coming Monday, I believe so, yeah.
This coming Monday. Okay.
That's fantastic.
Look forward to meeting you. TikTok, Joni says you can with a Hyundai.
I don't remember the context if it's the vehicle to home or vehicle to grid charging.
P2G, okay.
YouTube, Stuart Keem, V2H is vehicle to home.
Vehicle to home, okay. Like Highlander has a comment. I can't see it with the there. All right, so one of the things that he says, hi, Stuart. My sister's new EV has car-to-house capabilities. Instagram, Oakshade, welcome. He says, sounds like Gruber Motor could make a short training film for first responders. Yes, we could.
We probably could, actually, yeah.
Yeah, people ask all the time when they come to visit Gruber Motor Company, why do you have such strict protocols regarding charging? We actually have a separate battery bunker where any of the out-of-car battery charging takes place because of the risks.
Yeah. In fact, Joni on TikTok says, yeah, we had a fire here in New York, a lithium battery storage facility. It burned for a week and they had to evacuate home.
Yeah, it's, the technology here, folks, is you're packing an enormous amount of energy into a very small space.
Yeah.
And there's a price to pay for that at times. Thinks Automotive, David says they're struggling with all the EVs that burned in the Palisades Altadena fires.
Oh, sure.
Imagine.
I've heard that the cleanup may take months before some people will have a chance to even get back to their home properties.
Really. Got a picture here I just popped up, Jesse. And this is a picture of the EV Preserve building, the interior of it, which is our EV storage facility. And what the headline there says on the website. Oh, the website's live, by the way, folks. If you go to evpreserve.com.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to the world's first exotic car storage facility dedicated to electric vehicles. And one of the reasons we created this was the Tesla Roadster has an inherent design flaw in that if you don't charge it for a month or two, it will get into a condition called bricked. It will no longer accept the charge. There are ways to restore it, but it requires special equipment, and Tesla service centers don't do that.
Right.
So the cars end up coming to us, and we do what we call a level 1 recovery to get the car functioning again and accepting a charge port charge. What we found is over the years, a number of electric vehicles, Tesla Roadsters specifically, that were in storage facilities, exotic car storage facilities, ended up getting bricked because people forgot to charge it. They didn't listen to the incessant beeping that takes place for a week or so when it's getting low on charge. Or people just weren't monitoring it. So we decided it's probably time, since the Roadster collector or the Roadster car is going to go collectible again soon. It's time to create a exotic car storage facility for the Tesla Roadster. And some of the features that we have in this facility are our staff are not just car enthusiasts. They're electric vehicle experts specializing in Roadsters, which is the car that started the EV revolution. That's why we think they're going collectible again. Our deep knowledge ensures your vehicle benefits from the most advanced care handling techniques specific to EV drivetrains. We will never brick your Roadster.
That's right.
Continuous monitoring. Each Tesla Roadster is inserted with an open vehicle management system, OVMS as we call it, which allows for real-time monitoring of your vehicle status 24/7. The system ensures optimal charge levels are maintained and provides updates directly to the customer's cell phone and to our control center, giving you the peace of mind wherever you are. We have the 2 flat screens going up within the next few days in the control room at EV Preserve.
Okay.
And each of the cars which already has the OVMS systems will now be displayed up on those screens for constant monitoring of their status. Strict charging protocols. We adhere to strictly monitored charging protocols to ensure no roadster ever bricks, and it guarantees the longevity and efficiency of the packs that are in the cars.
Now, Oakshade 104 has a great question on Instagram about this. Says, do you have to charge Teslas every month or get bricked?
The Tesla Roadster, the best storage option for it is to leave what they call the yellow charge cable, which is the 120 volt, 15 amp charge cord. Leave it plugged in continuously if you're on vacation or even if you're storing in your garage, because the car decides when it needs a charge. The later model Teslas, it's the same basic concept, but they never get bricked. There
Right.
is circuitry inside that battery pack that will
Pete,
prevent that. Yes.
sorry, I have a question. So does that, if you leave the Tesla charged, like plugged in and charged while you're on vacation, does that act like a trickle charger?
It acts like a steady supply of charge capability, and the car then decides when it needs a charge, and it allows the charge to occur.
Right. So I have a trickle charger for my motorcycle now because it decided to die last week because it got so cold
Uh-huh.
that the battery, my 12-volt battery, decided to just die. And so if I plug it up into my trickle charger, it kind of like goes on and off for when the battery needs to be charged. Is that the same concept or is that different?
It's the same concept, and what you have is a smart charger. Your old traditional 12-volt battery chargers were dumb chargers, for lack of
Yeah.
a better word, and they continuously charge, which sometimes created a problem because if you're at 10 amps, you're going to cook that 12-volt battery at some point.
Yes.
So yes, in your case, it goes on and off. You have a smart charger. That's the best way to maintain your 12-volt motorcycle battery. All right, so the other thing I wanted to say was, with the cable plugged in at all times, you're on vacation in Europe for 2 months. With OVMS, you're constantly getting telemetry from your Roadster being sent to your cell phone. And if anything is out of whack, it lets you know, and then you can send your neighbor over to reset the circuit breaker that tripped, or, plug the cable in again if it got tripped over or whatever.
Well, and we've even seen, we installed the OVMSs in several cars, and the very next day, one of the cars threw an alarm.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we'll take to make sure that the cars don't brick, and we'll run through, twice a week, and put the cars on the charger to make sure that we are getting the proper charge and keeping the levels up. When a car goes into alarm, instead of having to wait 3 or 4 days to see the alarm, we're able to see it immediately on the OVMS.
Mm-hmm. And there's an evolving process at EV Preserve. Initially, we don't have to do the multi-stacking like you see here in this
Right.
background picture. But eventually, we will have umbilical cords coming down from the ceiling to every single car that will be monitored.
Mm-hmm.
And then, the cars continuously get trickled whatever they need. Environmental controls, another important one. When you have a collector car, certain temperature ranges and humidity levels lend themselves to, the longevity of that car's condition. We went through great lengths with the rebuild of this building to put in full environmental controls. In the area we live in, evap coolers are popular, which is a swamp cooler, basically,
Yeah.
that uses evaporative pads or water running over pads to create cooling. In this facility, it is all HVAC. It is AC. It is filtered, and we are going to have humidity control as well. So the cars continuously are clean. They're meticulously regulated to protect that collectible investment, including periodic movement of the cars to prevent flat spotting on the tires.
Right. And I can't say enough about the environmental. It's just remarkable what they were able to do.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be in the residential space, you could have a single number rating. A home might have a rating of a 120, which means it's 20% worse than average. your most energy efficient homes could be down as low as somewhere between 50 and 60. This is the business equivalent of that. Our building, it has the business equivalent of like a 50 rate.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really well insulated and easy to keep cool or warm.
Mm-hmm. And it was, it was designed and built with all of this storage capability in mind. And the best part is, if you store your EV with us, your collectible EV, there's a service center about 400 feet to the west, Gruber
Yes.
Motor Company, and staffed with engineers, technicians, and mechanics. Any problems with your car are immediately addressed, so you don't have to ship it cross-country to someone that specializes in Tesla Roadster repair. So our facility isn't just a storage space. It's a comprehensive care ecosystem for your exotic electric vehicle, designed to meet and exceed the specific needs of EV owners and enthusiasts.
Fantastic. We have a few comments that have come in. RC Robinson's son is joined us again today. It says the batteries are still good, with a little note to Cassidy about the fires.
Mm-hmm.
On TikTok, AI says, how does a person get trained to work on EV batteries?
You know, my suggestion is get a job with an EV manufacturer at a service center. That's going to give you the on-the-job training that you need in order to be proficient to work on these. The pace at which any learning institution could keep up with the latest technology is going to be a challenge. At a service center, you're always going to see the latest technology because they're the warranty center.
Right.
Anything coming off the assembly line, any problems will immediately end up at the service center. Or come to work for Gruber Motor Company. We have openings. ev@gruber.com. All right, Highlander says from YouTube, I'm looking forward to a firsthand tour in the facility. Yeah, we're looking forward to it as well, Highlander. It just sounds so first class and so high tech. It's going to be a wonderful day to tour that. And that's typically the feedback that we get. I've been in auto shops before, but I've never seen anything like this.
TikTok, Charles says, how often do you change the 12 volt on a Model S?
It has something to do with the environment that it's in. Here in Phoenix, Arizona, where we have 115 degrees outside during summer and even warmer under a hood at times, usually 2 years. But if you're in a more moderate climate, I would say 3 to 4 years, sometimes even 5 years. Joni says, where are you located? Phoenix, Arizona, North Phoenix, up by Deer Valley Air Park. And we give free tours every day of the service center. It's informative, and it's nothing like you can get anywhere else because the competitors that we have, the EV manufacturers, have very strict guidelines and requirements about insurance, and they can't let people just walk through service centers. We also have insurance, but they allow us to do it.
Yes. It's never been a problem. Highlander, again, does it have to be an EV to be stored, or could it be just a really nice vehicle?
You know, I get asked that question all the time. We've had our share of Ferraris there. We just sent a LaFerrari back home, by the way. It happened to be a hybrid, so it fit the description, At this point in time, I would say we're open to entertaining other types of exotic cars. But I think the future there is going to be Tesla Roadster as these cars become collectible. But being a businessman, that doesn't mean that we're not going to create additional facilities as the customers begin to show up.
Right. And then Akira Tron Film says, my friend has a Roadster. He's got one of the early ones at your place right now for battery work.
Ah, interesting. Okay. Yeah, give us the VIN if you know it. Just the last 4 digits, I might know exactly which car we're talking about. All right, Joni thanks us for the information as well from TikTok. Thank you. I have one more image to pop up here.
Okay, B, just so you know, we're already at 40 minutes in. We still have Cass and Aaron, too.
We can move to that if you guys like. Which one of you would like to go first, Aaron or Cass?
Let's have Cass go since Aaron's camera needs to get restarted.
Sure. Let's go.
So Cass is going to talk to us about
Lit motors. We're talking about lit motors today. I've got a whole bunch of pictures in the folder. If you want to pull them up, you don't have to.
All right.
And then I also have my document in there that has links to like their website and any like videos and stuff if you want to pull that up too. Just whenever you feel like it.
Coming. All right, here we go. Yes.
So Lit Motors is a motorcycle, a self-balancing motorcycle with also like an encase. So it's kind of like a Solo, except for Solos have 3 wheels. Lit Motors only has 2.
It's up, Jesse. There we go.
So the whole idea is that it's going to be completely encased, and then they're also going to be, instead of a 1-seater, it's going to be a 2-seater. So it'll act like a motorcycle where you have a backpack on the back, like a passenger on the back of it. They're not yet released. They're still looking for investors, but they are striving for comfort and safety of a car with the romance and efficiency of a motorcycle. So it's gonna be small, kind of like a Solo. Their C1 is classified as an AEV, or an auto balanced electric vehicle. So it'll have seatbelts, airbags. It'll be steel and aluminum protection. The CMG, or the Comfort Motion Global System, offers a 4th level of protection. So like I said, it's kind of like a motorcycle in the sense of like it's nice and small, but has the safety features of a car. They anticipate to expand in 2030, and how that, and it's still classified as a bike, but how that bike is balanced, they use a gyroscope.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
Fascinating.
you see that box down, that black box down at the bottom.
Yeah.
That's where the gyroscope sits. So it sits right in there, and it's got 2 of them actually.
Which looks like a horizontal spinning weight, basically.
Yeah.
Circular weight.
Yeah.
Which makes it very difficult for it to tip over because of that gyroscopic action is going to keep it as flat as possible.
Yep.
Stationary.
They have even tested it. They've got videos of them like pushing it and pulling it, like from like somebody using a truck to pull it and try and get it to knock over, but it doesn't it doesn't fall over.
Incredible.
Yeah.
The estimated speed is about 100 miles per hour. It will
100 miles an hour.
Yeah, 100 plus miles an hour.
That's crazy.
Let's go.
Seems a little slow to me, but no, you guys are
Well.
impressed with it.
And my bike goes 120, and that's untuned. So, it can easily do a 45-degree angle for nice tight turns, just like how a motorcycle can do that, especially on the track. It has a 4 to 8 hour full charge, and on the charge, it's about 175 miles per charge. And then there's lots of technical stuff that I'm not overly sure about because I'm still like learning about the batteries and what everything means. But it says 14 mile per kilowatt hour. Again, I'm not overly sure what that means.
I'll give you a little bit of perspective on that. The Tesla does their mileage range based on 300 watts per mile, which is 3 1/3 miles per kilowatt of energy, and this one's 14.
Okay. Oh, Joni asks, what is it called again? It's Lit Motors, LIT Motors.
Next picture.
Yeah, you can go ahead and continue going. So see, it's got a seatbelt and airbags. So, and the passenger seat just sits right behind the driver, and they use a steering wheel. It's not like they're using handlebars or anything. It's a nice mix between a car and a motorcycle, and their thought process is also kind of similar to Solo. With Solo, how they want to create a vehicle for one person to less the congestion and make it easier for people who travel to work on their own.
Interesting that they have airbags because the Solo, they actually circumvented that requirement because it was titled as a motorcycle. There's quite an additional expense involved in this airbag technology in a vehicle. crash testing, for example, takes on a whole new complexity and cost, and of course the product itself. So
Now,
Right.
since it's a motorcycle, does it need to go through the same level of crash testing that an automobile goes through?
don't know, the airbag testing, I think, is what's expensive. That was what the CEO of Aptera was talking about at CES, that there's some up and coming testing that's going to be very expensive,
Right.
and they needed more investment capital to do that.
Joni also says that they make airbag jackets now, which is what I was also going to say. So, as a motorcyclist, we can buy airbags basically for our bodies. So, they have airbag pants and airbag jackets, and you can tether it to the motorcycle. And because it's tethered to the motorcycle, when or if you fall off the bike, it pulls on the tether and deploys the airbags.
Fascinating. You get into an accident on the freeway and you just bounce off the freeway then.
Pretty much, yeah. It's you're
Much
less
safer.
likely to be injured that way, especially neck injuries, because it'll go
Yeah.
around your neck and hold your head in place.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's really expensive, but it's pretty cool.
Oh, there it is, in traffic.
Yeah, so it's nice and small like a motorcycle, but kind of gives you the comfort of a car. You know, being out of the elements, especially here in Arizona, where
Sure.
we have extreme heat, but also like in LA or New York, where they also have a lot more rain than we do.
And it looks like you can do lane splitting with this, which saves you a lot of time as well.
Right, but you have to pay attention to your traffic laws. Here
Yes.
in Arizona, we cannot split, but we can filter. There's a difference.
Tell me the difference. I don't know that.
The difference between splitting and filtering is speed. So
Oh, okay.
here in Arizona, we can filter 45 miles an hour or below to a stop or when traffic is stopped. So if I go to a stoplight or a stop sign and there's lots of traffic, I can go and filter all the way through to the front. There are a lot of safety things. You know, some people don't like it, so you kind of have to keep your eye out for that. But we're less likely to be hit from a distracted driver if we're in between cars.
Yeah, I didn't like it Sunday when my wife and I were going to dinner and it was warm enough to have the windows down, and a Harley with an uncorked exhaust was
Oh,
lane
yes.
splitting, sitting right next to us, blowing all of that, those fumes and all that noise.
Not me not having exhaust on my bike.
So lane splitting now on the freeway at 80 miles an hour is not acceptable.
No, not
Okay.
here in Arizona. In California, it is.
It is.
Yes.
Really?
You can split in California. It's like the
Wow.
only other state that you can do that in. It's very state dependent. And I obviously have done my research on it because I needed to know,
Mhm.
you know.
You want me to go through the images here, Cass?
Yeah, just cycle through them.
All right.
Joni asks, do they have reverse? That is a great question. I don't think they have said anything about reverse, but I do know that most electric motorcycles have a reverse option. So it wouldn't surprise me if they hadn't thought of it and put it in their system.
You can't parallel park without it if you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, so there would have to be reverse.
You would think so. Although with something this agile, you might be able to just pull right into the space.
Yeah, or put your foot out the door and do the normal traditional
Yeah.
motorcycle thing.
I believe Lit Motors also has the same feature as Solo, where you can get in and out from either side. So this is the nice thing about Lit Motors is that it's supposed to be small enough that you can park pretty much anywhere and multiple in one spot. So when I ride my motorcycle with my friends, we take up one spot, but we have 4 or 5 motorcycles in that one spot.
You know what? It looks like it's got Cybertruck DNA in it. Look at the styling.
does.
Yeah.
Very cool. And this must have been at a trade show of some type?
Yeah. So they actually kind of had to go on hiatus for a little bit because their CEO was in a motorcycle accident on a track because he rides a Ducati.
Mhm.
But they have started doing it again and working on their technology for it, which is why they're hoping to get like get better technology and get further in their process by 2030. That right there is another thing that they're working on. They're working on um, an electric scooter that you can also like carry things in for deliveries or just like anything that you might need to take while you're still like in a small urban area like LA or New York, like even Chicago too.
Okay. Oh, there's the empty version of that.
Yeah, that's the empty version of it. But that one also that one doesn't go very fast. The top speed is 35. Like I said, this is for more tightly knit urban areas. But they use that kind of as a prototype for their C1. So any technology that has, the C1's probably going to have it as well.
Okay.
I'm out of images. Do you have anything else on this or any other images?
No, I mean we can see what Aaron is up to.
Thank you, Cass. I
Thanks,
really
Cass.
appreciate that.
Very informative.
What's up, guys? So
What's
I
up?
want to talk to you guys about the 2025 GMC Sierra Denali EV, and I'm going to convince you it is the best EV, if not the best truck on the road.
Really?
Interesting.
Here we go. So when the specs first came out on this
I'm gonna put Cass away.
on this truck, and you can cycle through these the same way too. They're just random pictures of the
There we go.
of the Denali.
All right. Let me full screen. All right.
Which I will say this though, I'm not too impressed with the looks on it.
No,
It's
you're
like
right.
the front is very busy to me. I like very kind of simple designs,
Yeah.
and I don't know why they make these EVs look very futuristic. I wish they would make them just simple.
Are we going back to this first picture where?
Yeah,
Yeah. There we
yeah.
go.
It doesn't matter. You can cycle through them. Yeah, whenever you want. It's just random pictures of them.
The only thing I like about this front is that they borrowed our acronym for Gruber Motor Company.
Yes.
Oh, the GMC. So when it first came out, they came out with the specs: 8,800-pound truck with a 200 kilowatt plus max battery pack, which everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, something this big and heavy is not going to have any kind of range." Yeah, so like right here, they sit there and say that it's not an ideal candidate for being the range king with the huge dimensions and the 8,800-pound curb weight riding on 24-inch wheels. This thing will be a guzzler. And just to let you know, the average range, median range for an EV sold in the U.S. as of 2024 is 283 miles. Well, check this out. On a sunny, chilly day in California, it blasted past its EPA range figure of 460 miles, and it covered 507 miles on a single charge. So this thing, this truck, actually beat the Lucid Air Dream Edition, which still has the highest EPA range of 520 miles. But the Sierra EV narrowly edged out the Air in a real world range test, even getting close to beating the Air's EPA rated figure. So it actually beat it in the real world test, and it got even close to beating it in the actual EPA rated figure. So this sucker's actually better than what people thought and what GMC was projecting. As of right now, its efficiency is a 48.1 kilowatt per 100 miles, or 2 miles per kilowatt. But the Lucid Air is still doing pretty darn good. It's measuring out at 28 kilowatts for 100 miles and 3.5 miles per kilowatt. And I think a lot of that has to do with Lucid's motor. That's what it sounds like. I think that motor is just so superior and so good that it's just getting a lot better range because of that. But it feels like GMC is kind of, if these are, now towing will be a big factor, because from what I'm still hearing, towing's going to be the main factor with this truck. But from what I'm hearing, this is going to probably bump this up to one of the top trucks, out of the EV world. And I'm going to convince you still that it's going to be the best truck ever. Somewhat.
Okay.
Range wise.
I like that fold down bed. Do you know how long it extends when it folds down into the cab?
Yeah, so you could get 8 feet in there. A guy put in a board that was 8 foot, and he was able to get it inside there. But you know what's cool though? It's a 60-40 design, so you can actually put 60% of the seats down and still have room for a back passenger. So you can still have somebody sit in the back while folding down the other 2 seats, which is really nice and convenient, because I thought it was just all or nothing. So that is kind of nice that you can do that. And then I think when it's folded up though, I think it's still like a 5.5 foot bed.
Okay.
But the wheelbase is actually a little bit longer than most trucks that have a 5.5 foot bed. It's like in between that 8 foot bed, 1 ton, diesel versus that F-150. It's in between there, which gives it a little bit better stability. I was watching some videos on it, and what's really cool is I think because of the battery pack being underneath, the center of gravity being so weighted down.
Low. Yeah.
Yeah. They did a swerve test with a trailer on the back. And I mean, it just gripped the road and swerved, and it was instant. And it was how sometimes if you swerve, you kind of get that fishtail still.
Yeah.
Nothing. It was just solid when it came back. So I think you're going to see these trucks, as long as they get the range up when they're towing, I think you're going to see them being a lot better for long distance hauling, because they're going to be safer with that.
Impressive.
Yeah. So, and that's all I got on it.
Definitely impressive.
I think this is, I joke around it being the best truck, for EVs, but I mean, this thing is pretty impressive so far. I saw a Silverado in the wild. Like I said, it still feels like it looks busy to me, and it has that avalanche kind of a look in the back, which I'm not too, impressed with. But I mean, all the functions of it, man, as a truck guy, this is getting pretty good. So I think GMC and Chevy are onto something here.
Well, this is coming out with specs that are very similar to the Dodge Ram Revolution extended range that has been promised, but it so far is still vaporware.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, we've had a good podcast, I think.
Yeah, it's gone quick. Thank you guys, and thank you as well, Aaron.
And next week, the February 17th is the Tesla Roadster special on the tribute to the engineers. So that will be a podcast that will be on a Monday, and we'll do our Tuesday podcast like we normally do. We've got a few questions here. Joni is chiming in a number of times. She says GM is partnering with Hyundai to build an EV commercial vehicles in Georgia. Thank you. YouTube, R.C. Robinson son says 204 kWh battery pack is enormous. It is. You think
That's
about
a
it.
huge battery pack. And then Joni on TikTok says, "What is the cost estimate on that truck?" Aaron, do you have any idea what the range of cost would be on that?
I'm sorry, what was that?
The cost estimate on the on that Denali.
Yeah, I was looking at that, and I haven't seen much. I want to say it was upward towards starting around $85,000, which is kind of that's a bummer, See right here, I just did a quick search, and it looks like there's a couple around the valley, like Advanced Chevrolet. They advertise one for $93,000. Vance Chevrolet has one for $87,000. So it sounds like your starting price is going to be right around $85,000, and then fully loaded with all the bells and whistles, probably about $100,000.
Okay.
100. Okay. YouTube, Stuart King chimed in. He said, "What happened to the sunglasses?" Yep, we let them, we dropped them, and we're going to do the video reveal at some point and let everybody know what that was all about for over 3 years.
Yes.
YouTube, Finks Automotive. David says, "Anyone that has an opportunity to take a tour of Gruber Motors, this is a must."
Thank you.
Thank you. And then Joni says, "I'm a bike rider, but I won't do lane splitting. Not legal in my state. I find it more dangerous." I rode a motorcycle for years as well. And the thing that I can't unsee is you're doing lane splitting. you're going at a pretty good clip, and for some reason somebody opens their door to pour out a drink or spit. Now
Yep.
what?
Yep.
So
That's
that's what prevents me from doing that. Go ahead, Cass.
that's filtering at that point. If you're going slow enough that somebody can open up their door and spit, you're filtering. But splitting, I don't split either because that's too much for me because you're going, especially on the freeway. Here, at least, you're going 80, and I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
I'm not taking that chance.
Well,
I've
that-
already fallen off once. I'm trying not to fall off again.
The number of people who do these lane changes, high speed, sudden, no blinker, no nothing. Man, if you're a motorcycle coming up and doing lane splitting, when that happens, that's a problem,
No, you just bought the farm at that point.
pretty much.
So one final thing that I want to leave you with is our website continues to evolve. Jesse is webmaster. He is within a week or two away of a new launch of the Tessa Roadster matchmaking site, and it's going to be spectacular. It's going to be mobile friendly. It is going to be, again, dedicated to roadsters right now, but we're preparing the basic design to include many other vehicles, including sexy vehicles, solos at some point in time, whatever else we decide or our customers decide they would like us to help them sell. And pin maps are coming too. One of the things we're excited about is, wouldn't it be nice to look at a globe and see where all the roadsters are concentrated around the earth, right? That's coming as well. And with our census program, we're going to have some pretty accurate information there to display.
It's going to be pretty cool.
Well, we'll be back next week. We want to thank you for joining us. I'm Pete Gruber.
I'm Mark Schaffner, and take care.